What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the BookMine Academy. And in today's video, we're going to talk about the offers tab, which is going to be on or just above the Keepa graph. And I really like to use it. I'm a data nerd. Victor calls me a data nerd for using it. And we're just going to take a deep dive into it. And Victor, what's going on, man?
What's up, Joji? Yeah, definitely data nerd. So if you want to find out everything there is about a book, when it was published and how it was published, how many books it sold 6 months ago, and by who sold it, this is your video. If you've ever wanted all the data you could ever know about a book, happy you guys are here.
All right, so we're over here on BookMine, of course, and the first thing that I'm going to do is actually just filter by the selling meter to try to find books here that are going to actually be selling a little bit more decently. So I'm just going to go ahead maybe to like 6 to 10. So this is going to be finding us books that have much lower sales rank, which means that the book is actually selling. And what we'll do is maybe just look at this book here. We'll open it here in Keepa. And the first thing I want to show you is just where to find the offers tab. So here above the first Keepa graph, you'll see that there's a little button called data. And so you're going to want to click that data button. Then you're going to want to click this button called offers here. And this is where the data nerd in me comes out. And I personally love this. You know, we're even getting into land of maybe this is overkill, but again, I really like to kind of see what's going on here. So there's so much information here that is very overwhelming. So essentially what you need to know is that it's essentially going to be a number of rows here. So you can see there's essentially 33 rows. Each row is going to correspond to a specific seller. And it's going to tell you a lot of information about that seller, right? It's going to tell you kind of what condition they're selling that book in, what their price is with shipping included. It's going to tell you their stock quantity. And a lot of this, guys, is going to be an estimate. So do not take this as 100% accurate. It's just to get a better guess. So just for sort of an estimate, but it's going to give you the seller name of the person, to give the rating. It's going to give you a whole bunch of other stuff like we mentioned. But let me show you what I like to use it for here. And that's actually going to be these two graphs, which is going to be the price history graph and also the stock history graph, okay? So what exactly is the price history graph here, Victor?
So what Keepa has done for you is found this book, this seller selling this book, and then is able to track that specific seller and then make a graph just for you, for that seller, right?
So crazy.
Yeah. So again, this is why this is data nerds, right? It'll find just that one seller and show you, oh, on April 2nd, this seller was selling this book for $62, and then it went up to $80, and it went back to $72. And oh, he looks like that seller just sold out on that day. So you can kind of tie the two together, which I imagine that's what you're going to go next. But yeah, that's what's going to tie the two together, and you can kind of guesstimate how much that seller sold that book for.
So that's the price history, how their price has changed over time. Very interesting. What that gives this other graph called stock history.
So the stock history on these books is basically letting you know how many books that seller had in stock at that point. So, and how long it took them to sell out. So they came in at a certain time and then they sold it at a certain time. And I think right now we're looking at 90 days. But if you really want to go even farther, we have 180 days. We have, I think, all the way up to a year on this.
Yeah, you can actually go all for however much data they collected. So I don't know how far. I mean, I guess this guy goes back to 2018, which is kind of crazy. That guy's been on the listing for a while. This guy needs to sell that book. So yeah, you can filter by 30, 90, 180, 365 and stuff. Now, the thing that we're going to be seeing right now, though, is that we're actually going to be looking at only offers that are actually live. So this is 33 rows. That means this is going to be 33 live offers. And the way that we know this is live is that these people are still in stock. And the way I know that they're still in stock is if I zoom in on this Keepa graph, if I left click, hold, and drag, and I just keep doing that, you can see that they're still in stock. Like literally this minute, they're still in stock, which means that you could go to the Amazon listing right now and you can actually see, this guy's name. Like, let me go and scroll over here a little bit so we can see his name. You could go on the listing and you can find Kalmaz Books. He's there. He's selling it right now. If I zoom in, he's selling it for about $132.09. And obviously his price has changed quite a bit. Also, he's selling it in new condition as well, right? Now, the feature that I really like, Victor, is actually this little button up here called Include Historical Offers. So can you tell me what the heck does that mean if I click this box, which is Include Historical Offers?
So it just adds every book that has already previously sold before this point. So if you sold this book yesterday and before, now here's all the sellers who have ever sold this book. It's all categorized. It gives you the name, again, the same type of information, but now all the sellers in previously. Right. So Keepa remembers.
Yeah. So look how amazing that is. There's basically 33 people actively selling this book, but there's 535 historical offers. So there's been a lot of people who were on the listing that are no longer on the listing. And so the reason why I like to use this little include historical offers is now what we can use is these two things together, price history and stock history, to figure out if somebody has actually sold a book and what price they went out of stock at. And we can essentially make an educated guess that, if they went out of stock and this was their last price that was, scraped by Keepa, it's probably the price that the book sold for. Now, one disclaimer I'll make is that, again, this is not 100% accurate. Just because someone goes out of stock doesn't necessarily mean that they sold it. Victor, can you think of any reason why someone would go out of stock or go off the listing besides they sold it?
They went out of stock either because they possibly got an IP complaint. Sometimes also these sellers are mega sellers and they're also selling on eBay. So if they sell the book on eBay, they're going to go take it off the listing here on Amazon. So technically they still sold it, but they just didn't sell it on Amazon. They sold it on eBay. So those are probably the only ways.
Yeah, I can think of more. I think maybe a high pricing here. So high pricing here, boom, they got booted off listing. I could think maybe a fulfillment center transfer or maybe they're not there. I could see maybe they wanted to dispose of the book because they realized having the book listed for 4 years and not selling was a bad idea. So they decided to take it off the listing and just throw it in a trash can. There's a lot of reasons, right? So we're going to scroll down until we actually don't see this little blue dot on the right y-axis. Essentially, when you see that blue dot, it means they're still in stock, right? And it just means that if you were forever keep scrolling in, you're never going to see them out of stock. You can see they actually went out of stock here, would have been, right around like maybe 2 or 3 in the morning there. And that would have been on January 25th. And we can see that their price, when that happened, it looks like they dipped from 34 something all the way down to about 32. So an educated guess would be, okay, they probably sold it for $32. Would you say that's like a reasonable estimation?
Yeah, $32 is where they sold it at, right around there. Yeah.
And so the cool thing about this is you can start seeing these are all people that went out of stock, and you can see when they went out of stock, and you can kind of see what their price is. So you might go, wow, this guy went out of stock at 72. Whoa, don't go so quick. Look what Rent You was doing. Look what Rent You was up to here, Victor. They were on a massive repricing war, and they got rid of it for $25, right?
Yeah, they kicked on their repricer and then just sold out.
Yeah, same thing here. They kicked down the repricer, First Class Books, Mark's Fam. But you can see, like, for example, who between these 3 sellers right here, Victor, who between these 3 sellers was factually on the listing the shortest?
I mean, that's definitely Mark's Farm. That seller came on the listing for a couple of days, but you can see how they got it sold so quickly. They went from $60 down to $30. They were like, look, I want to get in and get out. Yeah. I'm selling this book for whatever I need to sell it for. That's my pricing structure.
And so you can see tons and tons of people going off the listing. Now, eventually, what's going to happen is you're going to run out of room. And that's because this Keepa graph is only going to be able to show you so much data. And really, it's going to be limited to your viewing window. So we're only looking at the last 90 days. If we want to look at all, then all of a sudden, we can see all these people that went out of stock. And I think this is just going to go forever, Victor. I mean,
yeah, data nerds, which I have no issue with. But this is just one book,
We've already spent 10 minutes on this video, like making this one book. Victor, what are you really looking at to make sure a book's actually selling?
The used price versus the sales rank, right? Wherever the used price is and the sales rank match, that's more than likely where the book sold. And if I see a ton of green lines drops over here and the used price, I'm right away assuming that's where it's going to sell at. And where we're at right now is pretty low compared to where we were in August. I mean, that's pretty easy to kind of see buy it there and sell it over there at the end of August or September.
Now, the other thing here is that if we looked at the buy box used price, one thing that we might be interested in thinking about is, even though the BookMine business model is not to inflate the buy box, we're not saying don't actively try to make more money by selling it, as a prime seller. All we're saying is that the books we're trying to find you are books that are actually undervalued or they're seasonal books. But also, a lot of those books could have a little bit of a prime bump. So if you can take advantage of, we're not saying don't take advantage. And we're just saying as a business model, the whole business model should be built off of buying low merchant offers and flipping for way to buy boxes, right, Victor? So
I agree with you. Yeah, it's basically a small bonus, sprinkle it on.
Right, that's exactly what it is. So you might wonder, well, what any of these here selling? So similarly, what you could do is, you could click any one of those buttons, any one of these pink triangles, and you can essentially see similar data. You can see, the price history, you can see the stock quantity, and you can make an inference from looking at that data as well. So if we look at maybe some of the more recent ones, you might say, okay, here's that same one, Rent You. You can see they're on the listing for 73. They went all the way down to the 25s, and you can see they went out of stock. So you'd say, okay, now logic is they went out of stock. Their last price noted was 25. They probably sold it for $25. Now, one thing that I didn't tell you about the offers tab is that probably what you'd also want to do is do a little bit more filtering, or you could do more filtering. Like, for example, you might only be interested in the prime offers. So you could select, I also want to look at prime offers. Just be, aware that whenever you change any of these, it's going to kind of bring the snapshot of the Keepa graph back to your default, which in this case is 90 days. So then you still need to come back here, click 365. You might not want to be looking at new books. You might only want to be looking at used copies. So there's a lot of things to be looking at here. All right, let's make it simple. If the sales rank is dropping, overlap that with the used price. Like, obviously, I think if this book did sell in used condition, it had sold for $69. That's actually the cheapest price it could have been. Back here in the previous year, I mean, these sales rank drops at 25. It had to be selling for at least 25, right? I mean,
right.
It could really be that simple.
There's value into the data tab. I'm just making fun of it for the fun of it. There's value here. You clicking on data will get you some more data that'll help you really make an educated determination whether or not to buy this book. So there's value there, especially if there's not very many sales. You can grab some more data if you're kind of in question whether or not to buy it. But books that are really like very clearly selling at certain points at certain prices, you don't need to click on that like. I'm not clicking on that in every book. I'm clicking on it when I need a little bit of extra data to help me decide whether or not to buy it. But if a book is currently 10 and it was just recently selling for 40, I don't need to go and verify that it, more than that, I can see it.
One last thing I'll add before we get out here is whenever you come across books like this that seem to have wild buy box prices, using this buy box use here, you might want to know, okay, well, are any of these actually selling? So, of course, you can click on them and you can look. So this person's still in stock. Obviously, they haven't sold it. But you might wonder, are any of these copies selling? So, what you could do is we can go to data, come over here to include historical offers when it does load. So we're going to go start offers, include historical days. We'll look at prime shipping. We'll also say we're only looking at new used offers. We go look at over the last 365 days. So what you could also do is you can kind of look at the prices over here and make a guess as to, okay, well, what were those prices when the people went out of stock? And you say, okay, 26, 26, 26. Oh, okay, a couple people at 45. And again, you'd also want to double check that that's actually the final price graph here. But, I'm already seeing like, okay, most of these people look like they're going out of stock in 20s and even some in upwards of 40s, right? So, I mean, that might be a value add to you so that you know kind of what the range the book is selling for. But again, this is for the data nerds out there. You don't necessarily need to get that deep. You could just probably expect, hey, this is a book that's a great sales rank. It's got sales at the lowest price of at least 35. So it's selling. It's selling, and it's a book that if you were to send in, it's probably going to sell, and that offer count is quite low right now. So, Victor, I'm babbling on. It's late at night. Any other thing to add, or are we good to go?
Yeah, no, I think one more thing. I think Joji's, how he looks at books is very valuable, right? He's able to find the needle in the haystack. He's able to find these books that are, really, really dirt cheap, $10, $20, and able to literally make 200, 300% on his money. And he's able to do that because he goes a little bit further than say the average seller does, or the average buyer over here. That he clicks on data and looks at a little bit more data to verify what he's actually seeing in the graph. So it's valuable. Click on it, look at what books actually sold for. It helps you out a little bit more. So I definitely think this was a value add to the community, and I'm happy we put this video up.
Sounds good. Well, I hope you guys have a good one, and we'll see you guys in the next BookMine Academy video. Peace.
All right, guys.